Welcome back, YouTube. This is day 3 of the turbo install. As you can see from last video and now, all the exhaust is done. Coolant reservoir is back in. We started pouring water in. I don't know how high it is. It's high. So today we're putting in the intercooler. So first thing we got to do is remove this cover with these clips, so flathead and a pick or two. We have that return line for the oil on. That wraps around and sort of makes it to where I can hopefully still get the damn oil filter out. I don't know. We haven't done an oil change with this thing yet, so we will see, I guess. Finished wrapping, so it comes around. We didn't have enough to do this pipe, but we need to put in an oxygen sensor, probably in this pipe right here, for our wideband anyways, so we'll see how that goes. Use some thread sealant on the nipple, screw the nipple into the wastegate, then put your line on. I did mine through here, and then it goes up to the turbo housing. I don't know if we could see it. There it is, way up there. Alright, make sure you don't fuck it up like I did. I'm gonna tell you when I fuck up. So anyways, this nipple on the front needs to be on the inside, and all the plugs need to be in all the rest of the holes.
That's correct.
Then we need to take out this front piece here, and we have to pull off the bumper, which is gonna require a couple bolts and screws inside of the wheel well and underneath, as well as these. So I'm gonna start pulling it apart. If I get into anything too technical or something that you should know, I'm gonna let you know. So the intercooler is gonna sit right in here where my hand is, and this all looks like it comes off in one piece. So we're gonna go underneath and undo the fenders and pop those loose, and then pull the whole bumper off. We have one 7mm bolt here, one 7mm there, 7mm there, and then the top should be just clips. We're gonna find out right now. You need to remove the inner front fender well. I'll show you where the screws are on the other side. So like I said, you have a 7mm here, 7mm here. Then you have one Phillips there, one there, one over there, and then two where the seam is. Unplug the blinker connector. Unclip this from the bumper and let it hang. All you need to do is unpop this. It'll unpop from that little bracket, and then you should be able to take the bumper off. But you're probably going to need, since this is all one piece, you got to unplug these lights from the wiring harness. You will need to unplug these, I don't know what the hell you guys call these things, fog lights. Doesn't make any sense to me. Anyways, that one and this one. Remove these plastic ducts so that you can get to the bolts on the power steering line. You're going to have to remove this one and that one. Remove the power steering mounting nuts. There's one there, one over there. Unbolt the horns and get ready to move them to a different location. Bend this tab that used to go in that hole up there. Bend this tab flat so it's out of the way. Cut this stud with a hacksaw so it's out of the way for the intercooler pipe. Grab the squiggly pipe right there. Let's see if we can get a light on it. That squiggly one that goes to the turbo. You want the part with the little right angle on the bottom, and you're gonna need to fish this through the top because the radiator fan's in your way. Then put on a coupler, tighten it down. We're gonna take a hacksaw to this and then put a coupler on the intercooler, and I'm gonna take a hacksaw to this. So you're gonna get that long J hook one. You're gonna put it here. The long coupler is the one that goes through the metal frame, so it squishes in a weird dimension. I'll show you up top in a second. You got these horns underneath the headlight now. I just used the clip. I pulled the clip out of here. See the mark? I pulled the clip out of there. I put the clip behind on the other side of the fender. Right there. And then I just tightened it down with the original hardware. And then this one, the bottom one, just J hooks around to the hot side pipe. Alright, so the directions say to put the power steering deal in front of the intercooler, which is impossible. There's not enough slack on the hose side to do it. So I can't have it coming across using this top bolt. And then I'm gonna put some weather stripping in here just to make sure it doesn't vibrate against anything. So the intercooler obviously this is for 2010 only. It might be different. Apparently the kit's modular. Anyways, on this I have the short bracket on the left, comes down, got the in front of the bracket on the intercooler. Then the long one has a spacer, a washer, and an Allen head, and then that also goes in the front. And then we put on clamp. Well, I put on this clamp first. Then, so this is the long one, if you can see there. So it deforms in the middle so that it can come through, and then this pipe goes on. And this is the one that goes to the throttle body. There. So, but in order to get all this done, I pulled the headlight out with one bolt there and 2 bolts down there. And I had to cut back some of the electrical tape to loosen the grounds so that I could extend that ground to there. And then the other ground was still too short, so I have it back there on the firewall. There's a factory bolt hole there, and that's where it moved the ground. So now I'm gonna tighten all this up and then just verify I didn't miss anything else. Alright, so a little tricky over here. That's going to be touching, but we needed to do that so we could push the pipe towards the front of the front of the car in order to get the blow-off valve to line up. Then we tighten the blow-off valve. The last thing I'm going to tighten right now is this main clamp that holds it to the turbo. Using some weather stripping so that the filter doesn't ever vibrate against the metal. Alright, this is unacceptable. They say tee off this vacuum line that goes to the fuel pressure regulator, and then run that to the blow-off valve. Alright, cool. That's simple, right? Put a T in there, put vacuum line to here, right? Except I need a hose stretcher. What the fuck? Come on, guys. Unacceptable for $6,000 kit. You should have just put 3 feet of this shit. It's only like $5. So this blow-off valve barely fits, or it's just a pain in the ass. Then you're gonna take that little Z plastic line. You're gonna put on this rubber line. I ran mine underneath, behind the throttle body, and it comes out over here. And then that just plugs onto this intake. And then tighten both clamps, and that's done. Go ahead, at AutoZone they have this T here that you cut to whatever thickness you want, So you see there, that one's the thickest one, which is this outside top one. And then this line's smaller that goes to the blow-off valve. So you only cut off the first section. And then just go ahead and plug it into your blow-off valve. Alright, go through when you're done and cut all these so they're not sticking out all stupid. But this is what it'll look like. There's a decent gap. I'm trying to get a good angle on it. There you go. Decent gap on that. I gotta bend this horn back up. Good. So that'll hide in the bumper now. This thing hides out front somewhere. This is, I think this is the outside temperature sensor. So we'll mount that somewhere. Let's see here. So it's on an angle. So the top is out farther than the bottom. Now that all this stuff is tight, okay, I put some weather stripping down there so that this doesn't rub against anything. So that'll be good. Here's a fog light for the bumper when we put that back on. So I think we're ready to put the front bumper back on. So next step, front bumper. Before you start plugging anything in, go ahead, latch these, hang the bumper so you can find out how much it sticks out. So it looks like we're only going to have to cut in the two corners, there and there. Since the bumper bows out in the middle, we have a gap in the middle. So we're going to trim, I think I'm just going to trim that straight down at a 90-degree angle. And then from that bend over, trim that at a 90-degree angle on both sides. And I think it'll fit. You're going to have to cut the bumper for the intercooler. Yours might be different than ours as far as how much you're going to have to cut. But you're going to have to cut this little tab thingy off. And then I took off about 3/8, a 1/4 inch to 3/8 of an inch in from here. Clean it with a razor, make it look factory again. There's what it looks like all cut and installed. Plug back in the fog lights. Once you put the bumper back on, put this bolt and that bolt in. Now let's go ahead and put the inner fender wells back in. Now put your top cover back on. Man, that looks better now. Look at this. Plug back in your blinkers, the inner fender wells. This is like the outside air temp sensor. So I just sort of strapped it to the intercooler pipe. Now we're going to put the bottom splash guard on. Here's the front underside protective cover. We're going to have to cut out this shape for the intercooler pipe. And then there was a little wall sticking up here. We had to cut that whole thing off because it was interfering with the actual body of the intercooler. So this is what it's going to look like. It's going to stick out a little bit, but it should line up everywhere and look good. On the 2010s, you're going to take a 1/2 inch drill bit. You're going to drill in here, making it wider. Then you're going to input this check valve with the springy part out and the O-ring in. Then you're going to take your factory hose. You're going to put that there. And you're going to put this one on the valve cover. It's too hard to do one-handed, so I'm going to put them on. But then you just put that back on. So we are officially done. This little piece right here was a little bit of a pain in the ass, but just put some wheel bearing grease and it'll catch all the shavings. Also make sure you get it in far enough to where it's flush. Other than that, I mean, man, this thing looks good. Don't mind the cables in the way. I like the black.
Even the